Councillor Watson.
Mine was just a mental note, Mr Mayor, and that maybe when the conference is at more exotic locations than Auckland, we bear in mind the overall cost of the numbers that are attending.
Absolutely. The only reason that we're recommending a higher than usual attendance is that there are no travel and accommodation costs associated with our attendance. I don't know how often it comes to Auckland, but it's probably once every 6-7 years. So it is the opportunity for us to show our support, and it is the opportunity for councillors and local board members to understand the organisation better, and we will have an ongoing discussion about how we can make local government New Zealand most relevant in terms of its role that it performs in New Zealand. I think it can be very important, and if we have constructive suggestions to make about how to improve it, then we should work in those lines. Okay, thank you very much. That was slightly longer, but we've got a clear outcome from that. So we now move to item number 13, which is the selection process for the demographic advisory panels for the next 3 years. Can I just draw councillors' attention to the fact that this is not the section where we discuss those who are being nominated to those panels. That's being done on the confidential agenda for obvious reasons of privacy. This is simply about the process that we've followed in getting these nominations and then subsequently making the relevant appointments. So can I invite Austin Kim, our Principal Advisor on the panels, and Marguerite Delbay to make any comments that they think are relevant to this paper.
So, Your Worship and Councillors, this paper just outlined the process that we went through to appoint members to 5 of the 6 advisory panels. The members were selected by a recruitment panel who was chaired by the liaison councillor with the lead officers and some members of the community. We run quite an extensive campaign to invite applications. We got 326 applications, which we were happy with. And so the process we went through, which was a robust process and consistent across the panels, is just described there. Just to note that we are following a different process for the appointment of the youth advisory panels, so it's not in this paper.
Thank you very much. Now, first of all, anyone that's got questions to our officials on the paper, Councillor Simpson.
Your Worship, thank you. We've got 2 recommendations. One is around the process and one is about the terms of reference. And my question is around the terms of reference, if that's appropriate. So notwithstanding that we had a report on this whole thing, and that report from Martin Jenkins said that the demographic advisory panels were neither optimally effective or optimally efficient. What changes to the terms of reference have been made so we will be a little bit more effective and efficient?
So the major changes include the format of the process and meetings. So previously, all the agendas were open to the public for discussion. Yep. So that basically meant that a lot of panels discussed the issues based on what was already formed by council officers, as the many agendas were formed and developed and came to the advisory panels right before coming to the governing body or committees for sign-off. Just to get the advice at the end of the stage. So what we are trying to do this time is to get the council staff members to come to the advisory panels at an early stage of their planning and brainstorming in a more closed environment between staff members and councillors and the advisory panel members for further conversations so that their input can be incorporated at an early stage of the planning.
Okay, thank you. And a second question, if I may.
Councillor.
So it's again around the terms of reference. So where I'm a little bit confused is that we're running this as governing body members, as the liaison, and I get what we're doing and we're doing it. So where the purpose is for us to engage on council policies, plans and strategies. So how does this, bearing in mind that a council plan, for example, is a local board plan, how is the engagement, how is the integration with these panels fitting into local boards? Bearing in mind we are the governing representative working with these groups, how does that fit in to local boards? Are these groups regional, on regional policies only, because we're the regional representatives, or are they right across everything we do, which is both local and regional?
So the panels will provide advice of a strategic and regional nature, and they are one of the several engagement mechanisms that we've got. But this is one of the, we engage with communities in many different ways on many different things. What we're trying to achieve this time is really get them as experts to really help us engage with the communities properly as well and reflect those views.
So I just haven't got it clear in the terms of reference, and maybe I think it should be in the terms of reference that there is some communication with local boards, or do you see what I'm trying to say, Your Worship? Because if the purpose, if you look on page 4, if the purpose of the terms of reference is for regional and strategic matters, that including those of CCOs, fine, I get that. But it's the first one. It's our policy, plans and strategies at a general council. We're either using these people for regional, because we're the regional people, or we're involving them with local. And all that it needs is a change to the terms of reference to inform local boards of that feedback. That was my amendment to the terms of reference, if it was to go right across our organisation. If it wasn't to go right across our organisation and it was only to deal at regional level, well then fine. But don't use statements such as council policies, plans and strategies, which are regional and local.
Yep.
It's not clear. And I'm very keen to make sure that these panels work better than what they've worked before, because they haven't. So if we set clearly our objectives out in the terms of reference that reflect that, hopefully it will work better.
Yeah.
It was one of the tools that will help it work better.
I'll seek a comment from officials, but just to raise the question, this is about the selection process rather than the wider operation. I understand where you're coming from.
But
about
it's written in the terms of reference.
So can you please refer me to the para that you're...
Okay, so
this is on
page
the paper on the
44,
selection process.
Page 44
Okay.
in
Oh,
the
this
agenda.
is in the attachment, yeah,
Sorry.
yeah.
So what you're asking us to do today, or what officers are asking us to do today, is the appointment process and approve the updated terms of reference. So my questions were, how have we updated those terms of reference?
Okay.
And
No,
we've got that
that's-
answer. Now I'm looking at the terms of reference and saying, well, if you add to the terms of reference that there is communication, I'm seeking clarity whether this is regional or regional and local.
Yep.
And if it's regional and local, there needs to be a communication. I was going to take out that first bullet point under purpose.
Yeah,
If it was only regional, and if it was going to stay, there needed to be something around the role of the chief liaison councillor or whatever, or the groups to communicate their findings with local boards or to engage them. So either one or the other. But at the moment, it's not clear.
yep,
So two comments, if I may, Your Worship. The first one is the governing body adopted these terms of reference in the last term when you made the decisions to reconvene the panels.
I wasn't here in the last term.
In the last year, sorry, of the but in this term. So the only changes that we've made to those terms, to these terms of reference, is changing the frequency and the number of some meetings, because some of the recruitment panels have recommended to appoint more members than we anticipated, so that was to balance the cost. So from the difference between the terms of reference you adopted in December and those ones, that's the only change that we've made. That's the just a point of clarification. For this, on your substantive point, we are... A key recommendation of the report in our report in December was that the demographic panels advise the governing body on strategic regional matters. So if it would make it clearer to add the word regional in that first bullet point under purpose, we can do that.
I'd be happy with that, thank you.
Okay,
Yeah.
that sounds like a good, happy medium. I think there's a wider discussion to have, Councillor, in relation to how the boards operate compared to, say, advisory boards that the local boards operate. While it could be covered, as you say, under recommendation B, the focus of this paper is in fact on the selection process. But your point is relevant, and I think we need to continue to address that. But maybe with that amendment, so the suggestion is under the terms of reference.
Under purpose.
Under purpose.
Council regional policy plans and strategies.
Regional policy plans and strategies. So we make that amendment.
Then it keeps it regional.
That would be consistent with what we're doing. Okay. So is there any further discussion about this paper? Is there anyone from the liaison, any of the liaison councillors that want to make a comment about process? Councillor Stewart?
Yes, just on the recruitment costs, we've got from the long-term plan for 2015 to 25, the annual budget's 395,000, and that's the operation of the 5 panels. But does that include? We've now got the 21 youth panel members. Is that part of that budget there?
So, Your Worship, through Your Worship, the total amount indicated there is inclusive of not just the demographic advisory panels, but costs associated with what we call sector panels, inclusive of rural and heritage advisory panels. And the cost, the changes to the terms of reference reflect the change in the number of the youth advisory panel members as per the resolution made in November last year. So that has been adjusted. So that is now aligned with this budget.
Thank you. Councillor Denise Lee.
Thank you, Mr Mayor, and appreciate the work that you've done, Austin, to bring the process to this point, and noting that the selection process was brought in-house and not through a recruitment agency, and I thought that worked well. I just have a question in regards to potential equity issue. For the ethnic panel, we interviewed, look, I forget the numbers, but I think we interviewed about 14 and landed on 10. And the report, the process says that each panel has between 6 and 10. On the Rainbow Advisory Panel, I see that those who are in the previous term continue, but 4 new were interviewed. So what's the total going to be for that? Because can you answer for me? My understanding is that there's a fiscal envelope and that has to be shared amongst all.
Yep.
And if the fiscal envelope is more for one panel, and that's where I'm asking about the Rainbow panel, then do the others come down? Because we had an issue around that with exactly how many we could appoint on the ethnic panel.
So in the previous term, there were 12 members appointed, and their membership has been rolled over given that they had less than 12-month term in the previous term. 3 people, previous members, left, and 2 of them were Maori members. And given the consideration of the Maori voices as part of the Rainbow Communities Advisory Panel, we recruited 2 additional Maori members. So they are now made up of 11 panel members there. So this is the number of members in that particular advisory panel is a bit more, 1, 2, or 3 more compared to other advisory panels. Given the diverse voices and the makeup of the issues of the rainbow communities, and given that it's been just established and they've got a lot more agendas to address to the council, so that factor has been considered.
I'm comfortable with that for now, but going forward, their number should be the same as any other panels, because if you want to talk about diversity, yes, you know, the ethnic panel has quite a bit of that, or needs quite a bit of that. So, yeah, happy for now, but it obviously will not be rolling forward in those terms. Yeah.
Thank you. Councillor Filipina.
Thank you, Your Worship. And I just wanted to sort of carry on from Councillor Lee in regards to the numbers, because during our interview process, and just to look, I firstly want to again reiterate what Councillor Lee said, and thank you, Austin, to your team in regards to the whole process. And your Worship, I'm hoping that C could be put up there, because it needs to be acknowledged, the work that Austin and his team went through this whole process. We ended up having over 60 people apply for the Pacific Peoples Advisory Panel. We then shortlisted to 13 and interviewed 12. And I know that during our election process, so I want to put a C in there just to thank Austin and his staff in regards to the appointment process.
Can I get you, we probably don't need to make it a formal recommendation, but you could just move a vote of appreciation if that's more suitable.
Yep.
Happy to take that now in the midst of, if you like, while it's on our mind.
Yep.
So it's been moved, a vote of appreciation to our Austin and our officials for the huge amount of work that went into this. Have I seconded for that?
Second.
Yep, seconded, Councillor Richard Hills. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. It's a contrary, no, carried. Thank you very much for that work.
So I haven't finished.
No,
Your Worship.
keep going.
Because during the selection process, we asked Austin around the numbers, and exactly as Councillor Lee has indicated and said. So we asked a question around having 9 because of the understanding that it was 8 was the number that was getting banded around for our panels. So we asked about 9, and the comment was, look, it needed to come through to the governing body. Then I understood that Councillor Lee also mentioned the fact that, hey, for us to be real honest and to support the panels, both ethnic and Pacific, there was a number of 9. I now hear 10, and I agree with you. Is that for us around both our panels, that if there's 10 and there has to be some consistency, and it's here from 6 to 10 in our terms of reference. So it'll be interesting, Your Worship and Marguerite and Austin, I don't know how we end up putting the fact that both Pacific Peoples Advisory Panel as well as the Ethnic Advisory Panel requesting 10 members to be appointed. Is it 10 or 9?
9.
Yeah, 9?
9.
Sorry, sorry, Councillor Lee, I thought it was, you mentioned 10, I thought, yeah, good on you. But is it 9? So, just clarification, is it 9 for ethnic as well?
Yeah. On their confidential paper, it's got set out the numbers. It's 8 for disability, 9 for ethnic, 9 for Pacific, 8 for seniors, and 2 extra Māori members for the existing Rainbows Community Board. So those are the total numbers.
Okay, cool.
I was just querying the 11 for the Rainbow panel,
Oh, yeah, okay, cool.
and whether that changed our fiscal envelope for
Yeah,
the rest of us.
And I agree with it too. I agree with your comment around that. So, look, again, Austin, I'll wait for the confidential and look at the numbers to confirm them. Okay.
Thank
you,
you
Your
very
Worship.
much. Final question, Councillor Newman.
Oh, thank you, Your Worship. Thank you, Marguerite and Austin, and I concur with the positive reflections that have been offered today. My one comment, a little bit of feedback, which I just, in relation to the Youth Advisory Panel, and the paragraph 23 sets out the Youth Citizens Jury event that was held. If there was one little bit of learnings feedback I got from members of the Maniarewa Youth Council is at the timing of that event, it was held at a time when a lot of the young people couldn't attend. So I'm hoping, and I just reflected that back to Councillor Hills and Councillor Collins, I'm really hoping with respect to the recruitment process for the members of the Youth Advisory Panel that we really, and there's no perfect time, I accept that, but if we really work to try and ensure that we can get those young people involved, and they of course have to operate in according to the timetable, which involves their schooling and education as well. So if we could really try and ensure that the times for those engagements are conducive to the young people and their ability to participate.
We will definitely take that factor into consideration as a major process.
Yep.
Thank you very much. Last comment from Councillor Collins.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. I just wanted to pick up on the point made by Councillor Newman, because I think it's a very fair point to make. What I would like to say is how excited I am, and I was appreciated Councillor Hill's attending on the day, that the fact that we did move to a citizens jury format. I thought the format worked really well. But again, there were challenges. We were in the middle of town. It's hard to get buses to the museum, and it rained like it was during the time where we were having some real issues with weather. So, notwithstanding those things, the process that a citizens jury activated, I thought was really good, and I was there for half the day. And saw some really good participation from those who were able to get there. So I wanted to congratulate them on getting, looking wide to find a process that would work. And there was, some of them even suggested that I not be in the process of selecting them at all. And I thought, well, if it's I think what excites me about that, them withdrawing me, is the fact that they felt very empowered by the fact that they could come up with the process. So I think it was a really good path to follow. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor. So we have two recommendations on the screen in front of you, noting the appointment process and approving the terms of reference with the addition of the word amended by Councillor Simpson. I'll put those recommendations. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
I've moved it, sorry, I should have sought a seconder. Do I have a seconder, please? Councillor Clow. Now I'll put the resolution. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
To the contrary, no. Carried. Item number 14 on the agenda is extraordinary business. None has been notified. So we now move to item number 15, which is the procedural motion to move into confidential session.
Second.
It's been moved by the Deputy Mayor and seconded by Councillor Filipaina. I'll put that resolution. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
To the contrary, no. Carried.